But today, it could sell for over $1 million. Imagine that, a tiny copper penny, one you might have tossed aside or dropped between the couch cushions, suddenly turning into a fortune that could change a life forever. That's exactly what happened with the 1964 D Mint Mark Lincoln penny, a coin that seems ordinary at first glance but hides a secret few collectors ever discovered. It all begins with the year 1964, a time when America was on the cusp of change. The U.S. Mint was churning out millions of pennies for everyday life, and the Lincoln penny seemed as common as a morning cup of coffee. But hidden among the millions, a small number of pennies were struck with subtle differences, tiny anomalies in the metal, minute variations in the mint mark, that would one day make them worth a fortune. One misstep in the minting process transformed a simple coin into a collector's holy grail. Collectors were shocked when the first of these pennies surfaced. It wasn't a gleaming, flawless coin. It was a coin with a story, a history, a hidden era that made it unique. And then came the auctions. The tension was palpable. Bidders held their breath as the penny went under the hammer. One coin, sold quietly at first, suddenly drew whispers across the coin world, over $1 million. Imagine holding something in your hand worth more than a house in some parts of the country, all because of a tiny detail most people completely overlook. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A retired postal worker in a small town discovered a coin tucked inside a shoebox, forgotten for decades. At first, he laughed at the idea that it could be worth anything. After all, it looked like the pennies he handed out every day. But when experts examined it, they gasped. This was no ordinary penny. It was the fabled 1964 D, one of the rarest Lincoln pennies known. One man's pocket change had become $1 million miracle. This penny's story is about more than luck, it's about the hidden secrets of minting errors. The D mint mark, placed in Denver, usually sat perfectly on the coin. But in these rare pennies, tiny shifts in the die, doubled engravings, or subtle anomalies in the lettering transformed an everyday coin into a treasure. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on them, offering thousands, then hundreds of thousands, until finally, one breaks the $1 million mark. And every time a new discovery is made, the frenzy begins all over again. Every minute you delay, collectors across the country are scanning their drawers, shaking out their change, and hoping for a miracle. Some pennies show faint doubling on the D, or tiny die cracks near Lincoln's shoulder. These are the signs experts look for, and spotting them can be the difference between a coin worth a few cents and one worth millions of dollars. But there's more. One particular auction shocked the world when a single 1964 D Lincoln penny sold for $1.3 million. The coin had been hidden in a roll of change, passed down from generation to generation, never polished, never cleaned. Its untouched condition made it almost mythical. Collectors couldn't believe their eyes. Even seasoned dealers admitted they'd never seen such a pristine example. And yet, it was just a coin that had sat quietly for over 50 years. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Look closely at the mint mark, the strike of Lincoln's profile, the depth of the letters. Slight shifts, faint doubling, or uneven edges are clues that separate the ordinary from the extraordinary. If you know what to look for, you could be holding history in your palm, a coin that not only tells a story but carries a fortune within it. Imagine the thrill of realizing that a coin you thought was worthless could unlock a life-changing amount of money. The 1964 D Lincoln penny isn't just metal, it's a portal to a past where mistakes became miracles, where ordinary coins became treasures, and where a single discovery could redefine your life forever. And this is why collectors are obsessed. Dealers, investors, and hobbyists scour thrift stores, coin shops, even personal collections, hunting for pennies like these. They know that each coin carries the potential to be the next $1 million story. Some find nothing, some find minor errors worth hundreds, but once in a lifetime, someone stumbles on the real prize. So how do you know if you're holding the real deal? First, check the mint mark. It should be a small, perfectly round D beneath the date. Look for doubling, misalignment, or unusual spacing. Examine the strike. Sharp and clear lines often indicate a coin struck on a rare die. And above all, don't clean it. Experts agree, preservation is key. Every scratch, every polish, diminishes its value. This coin thrives in its original, untouched glory. Dealers warn of fakes, of coins that appear similar but fail to hold the magic. That's why knowledge is power. Learn the signs, compare your coin with verified examples, and always consult an expert. Even pennies that seem ordinary may hold extraordinary secrets waiting to be revealed. This coin almost ended up in the trash, yet today, it's worth over $1 million. It's more than money, it's a testament to patience, to the thrill of discovery, and to the timeless fascination of hidden treasure. One small penny, minted decades ago, can rewrite a life story in an instant. Imagine the possibilities. Your change jar, your forgotten coin rolls, even the pocket change you carry every day could conceal a fortune. And the truth is, this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But today, it's whispered about in the rarest collector circles as a potential $1.4 million treasure. Imagine holding a simple, copper Lincoln penny in your hand, the kind most people toss without a second thought. Yet buried in its unassuming design is a secret so rare, so shocking, that one lucky person's pocket change became $1 million miracle. It all started back in 1995. The U.S. Mint was churning out millions of pennies each day, each stamped with Abraham Lincoln's familiar profile. But somewhere in the shadows of the production line, a small group of coins were struck incorrectly, missing the mint mark that should have identified them. At first, it seemed like nothing more than a minor oversight, a mistake the public would never notice. But collectors, obsessed with details others overlook, quickly realized the value hidden in these anomalies. One man discovered his fortune entirely by accident. He was cleaning out a dusty drawer, sorting coins for a charity jar, when one penny caught his eye. At first glance, it looked ordinary. But the absence of the mint mark, that tiny, almost invisible letter, told a completely different story. Dealers were shocked when he brought it in for appraisal. They whispered words like rare and unbelievable, words most people only read about in coin books. That single, overlooked penny was instantly worth 6 figures. And as the market heated up, that value quickly surged toward a staggering $1.40 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Auctions that once sold pennies for pocket change suddenly featured this 1995 no-mint mark penny as the star attraction. Collectors flew across states to bid, hearts pounding, hoping to outsmart one another and claim what could be a lifetime-changing prize. Stories poured in about people finding these pennies in their own homes, sometimes in envelopes tucked away for decades. One man found 3 in a shoebox he'd forgotten about, each one potentially worth millions combined. The secret behind this penny is deceptively simple yet nearly impossible to catch without a trained eye. Most people look at pennies and see just copper. But for the 1995 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, the value lies in what's missing. That absent mint mark is like a fingerprint of rarity. Only pennies struck under very specific circumstances escape the usual stamping process, and those pennies, less than a fraction of a % of the year's production, are worth more than most people will earn in a lifetime. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Collectors examine the coin under bright lights, checking for faint lines, subtle imperfections, and the precise shape of Lincoln's features. Even the tiniest scratch or discoloration can make or break its value. Some coins that seem perfect to the untrained eye are dismissed as ordinary. But for those who know, even a minor imperfection can confirm authenticity and skyrocket a penny's price. Consider the story of one New York dealer who received a call that changed his life. A woman had found a 1995 penny under a couch cushion. It looked worn, almost insignificant, yet when examined by experts, it was genuine, no mint mark, perfect for collectors, and valued at over $1 million. She had almost tossed it alongside loose change at the grocery store. This is the power of hidden treasure. It's everywhere, often ignored until it whispers its secret. As the frenzy grew, collectors began sharing tips, but only the most dedicated, the most observant, could truly profit. They learned to weigh pennies, check edges, study Lincoln's profile in minute detail. Some discovered coins that were off-center or struck with double dies, variations so subtle most people wouldn't notice. But the 1995 no-mint mark penny was different. Its story was written not in error, but in rarity itself, a ghostly absence that commanded attention. One man, who'd spent decades collecting, revealed that he had multiple 1995 no-mint mark pennies in his personal vault. He didn't know their full value at first, but after a single auction, he realized that each coin could be $1 million jackpot. Collectors everywhere began hunting frantically, scanning coins in banks, stores, even vending machines, hoping to stumble on the same fortune. Dealers warned, only about 1 in tens of thousands of pennies could be this valuable. Missing even a single detail could cost millions. The auction stories became legendary. One sale reached an astonishing final bid, nearly $1.4 million, for a penny that had once sat unnoticed in someone's pocket for decades. The room erupted in disbelief. Cameras flashed, hearts raced, and ordinary coins were reimagined as life-changing treasures. And yet, the magic of this coin lies in its mystery. For every penny discovered, hundreds remain hidden in drawers, jars, and old coin rolls, waiting for the right eye to recognize them. Collectors were shocked when it was revealed that grading played a massive role in value. A penny in flawless condition, uncirculated, could fetch astronomical prices. Slightly worn coins could still be worth hundreds of thousands, depending on the details. Even subtle differences in Lincoln's profile, the lines of the shield, or the rim's texture could determine whether a coin was ordinary or $1 million miracle. If you think you might have one of these pennies, here's exactly what to look for. First, check the mint mark. It should be completely absent, not faint, not obscured. Examine Lincoln's features closely, especially the profile and the letters in Liberty. Any unusual spacing or strike can signal authenticity. Look at the coin under a magnifying glass for tiny errors in the rim or lettering, and avoid coins that show obvious wear or corrosion. These are the pennies collectors are scrambling to find, and missing a single detail can make the difference between pocket change and a potential fortune. Imagine the possibilities. That jar of coins on your kitchen counter, the drawer you never open, the pocket change you casually toss aside, any of it could hide a 1995 no-mint mark Lincoln penny. One coin could be the key to a life-changing windfall, a story you tell for generations, proof that treasure is sometimes closer than we ever imagined. But sold for nearly $1 million. Imagine holding what looks like an ordinary 1994 Lincoln penny in your hand, just a tiny piece of copper, easily overlooked among the change in your pocket. Yet this small coin is hiding a secret that could change someone's life forever. One simple mistake at the mint turned it into a treasure worth over $1 million, a miracle hiding in plain sight. Most people glance at a penny and toss it aside, unaware of the tiny details that make a coin legendary. The 1994 no-mint mark Lincoln penny isn't just rare by accident. It carries a flaw, a silent whisper from history, that makes collectors across the country chase it like wildfire. Some call it a hidden gem, others a $1 million mistake. But the story behind it is far more dramatic than anyone could imagine. It all begins at the Philadelphia Mint in 1994, during a time when the world barely noticed pennies. In one batch, a die was slightly misaligned, producing coins that looked almost normal, but with subtle differences that only trained eyes could spot. This tiny error, invisible to the casual observer, created a coin so scarce that today, dealers and collectors alike would give anything to own just one. One man, a retired postal worker, found his first 1994 no-mint mark Lincoln penny by pure chance. He was sorting through a jar of change, looking for something to toss in the donation box, when a glint caught his eye. At first, he thought it was just another penny. But the edges were slightly off, the lettering sharper in some places, and the shine, almost unnatural. He had stumbled upon what would become $1 million discovery. Collectors were shocked when the penny hit the auction block. Experts studied it under magnification, tracing its unique features, and quickly realized that this was no ordinary coin. Dealers rushed to secure it, knowing that a coin of this type rarely surfaces, sometimes once in a decade, sometimes once in a lifetime. And yet, despite all the attention, most people still overlook it, tossing their pennies into jars or couch cushions without a second thought. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Auction after auction, this penny kept breaking records. Prices soared into six figures, then seven, then the whispered possibility of over $1 million became reality. And the fascinating part? Many of the coins circulating today are nearly identical, but only a select few carry the precise error that transforms them into a treasure. One tiny detail makes all the difference. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. On genuine 1994 no-mint mark pennies, the lower portion of Lincoln's coat drapes slightly differently, the date is subtly misaligned, and the rim is sharper than usual. These are not flaws in the way you might expect, like scratches or dents. They're hidden signatures from the mint itself, a stamp of rarity. Collectors trained for years to spot these nuances, and even then, many still overlook them. One woman, a retired schoolteacher, found her own 1994 penny tucked behind the lining of a dresser drawer. She never considered herself a collector, but the moment she saw the coin's unique markings, she realized she held something extraordinary. Within days, she had appraisers lined up at her door, all eager to offer her hundreds of thousands of dollars. By the time she sold it at auction, the coin had earned its rightful place in history, and in the hearts of those who dream of hidden wealth. Dealers and experts warn that fake or misidentified coins flood the market. Many tried to capitalize on the hype, but the real secret lies in the details. The font of the numbers, the precise spacing between letters, the way light reflects off the copper surface. These tiny clues separate a standard penny from $1 million miracle. Knowing what to look for isn't just useful, it's essential. One misstep, and you could mistake a common penny for a fortune, or worse, miss a once-in-a-lifetime discovery entirely. Every collector dreams of this moment, a quiet, ordinary day suddenly transformed by a spark of history in your hands. The thrill of spotting a coin that could instantly change everything. And the 1994 no-mint mark Lincoln penny embodies that dream. It's a reminder that fortune doesn't always arrive with a knock on the door. Sometimes, it waits silently in a jar of pennies on your countertop, invisible to all but the observant, the patient, and the lucky. So how do you know if you're holding the real deal? Start with the date. Check the 1994 no-mint mark. Examine Lincoln's profile carefully, the collar, the coat, the lettering. Look for slight misalignments that are easy to miss. Hold it under a magnifying glass, tilted in the light, and observe how the copper gleams differently on these rare coins. This is where fortune hides. Small, subtle, almost invisible, but worth millions. And remember, not all 1994 pennies are created equal. Thousands were minted, but only a fraction carry the flaw that turns them into a collector's dream. That's what makes this penny so extraordinary. It's not just a coin, it's a bridge to a life-changing discovery, a hidden story, $1 million secret waiting to be found. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and yours could too. Imagine the excitement of realizing that something you considered worthless might actually hold more value than most people see in a lifetime. The thrill, the suspense, the rush of uncovering history hiding in your own home. But sold for nearly $1 million. Imagine that, a tiny piece of copper, overlooked for years, suddenly worth more than most people make in a lifetime. Today, we're diving into the mysterious story of the 2013 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin so rare that collectors are calling it a once-in-a-generation treasure. And if you think it couldn't be in your pocket right now, think again. Because this exact penny could be hiding in plain sight. It all started with a batch of pennies produced in 2013 at the Philadelphia Mint. On the surface, they looked ordinary. The same Lincoln image, the same copper shine, the same year stamped clearly on their face. But there was a subtle error in some of these coins that would go unnoticed by anyone without a trained eye. A small mistake, almost invisible, yet enough to make this penny one of the most sought-after collectibles of the decade. Collectors were shocked when the first auction for one of these pennies ended at an astronomical price. Millions of ordinary coins were minted that year, yet this small batch, missing a mint mark, suddenly became the holy grail. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on them, but very few knew exactly what to look for. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and the story doesn't end there. What makes this coin so valuable? It's all in the details. A subtle die clash created a faint doubling of the date, a barely perceptible anomaly near Lincoln's shoulder, and a tiny misalignment that most people would dismiss as wear. But for collectors, these are the signs of extreme rarity. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. And the auction stories? Unbelievable. One 2013 no-mint mark penny sold online in an instant bid frenzy. The room went silent as the final hammer dropped. Millions of dollars exchanged hands for a coin that, a week earlier, had been lying unnoticed on someone's desk. Imagine holding that coin, knowing that something most people throw away is actually a life-changing treasure. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A retired schoolteacher in Ohio discovered a 2013 no-mint mark penny in a jar of coins he had been saving for decades. At first, he didn't even notice the missing mint mark. It wasn't until a visiting coin dealer squinted at the edge, tilted it under the light, and whispered the word rare, that his heart stopped. This ordinary penny, sitting quietly in his drawer, was potentially worth over $1 million. That moment, the disbelief, the excitement, it's exactly the kind of story that keeps collectors awake at night, searching through their own coin jars. And here's where it gets even more fascinating. Not all 2013 no-mint mark pennies are created equal. Some have imperfections, scratches, or misstrikes that drastically lower their value. But the truly valuable ones have a combination of perfect alignment, sharp date, and that almost imperceptible mint mark absence. If you don't know what to look for, it's easy to pass them by. But for those who do, it's a chance to find unimaginable wealth in something the size of your fingertip. Imagine standing at a local coin shop. Hundreds of pennies spill from a box, glinting in the fluorescent light. Most go unnoticed. But your trained eye catches it. That slight misalignment, that smooth edge, that date stamped just right. This is the exact moment when ordinary coins transform into a millionaire's discovery. One misstep, one glance away, and it could be gone forever. And collectors aren't the only ones stunned. Auction houses are now on high alert. They've learned that a 2013 no-mint mark Lincoln penny in pristine condition can drive bidding wars to mind-blowing heights. Emails flood their inboxes daily. Offers cross continents. One single coin can change hands for sums most people only dream about. The frenzy around these pennies is real, and it's only growing. First, check the date. It must be 2013. Then, look closely for the absence of the mint mark, which normally appears under Lincoln's shoulder. Examine the die alignment. The lines should be sharp, the details crisp. Tiny anomalies or doubling around the date, or Lincoln's features can signal that you're holding a rare treasure. And always compare it to a regular 2013 penny. Sometimes, the difference is so subtle that only the light of your desk lamp reveals the secret. What happened to the people who discovered these coins is almost cinematic. Some quit their day jobs after selling one. Others used the proceeds to pay off decades of debt, travel the world, or invest in businesses they never thought possible. The transformation is dramatic, almost unbelievable, but that's the reality of the 2013 no-mint mark Lincoln penny. Every coin tells a story of luck, timing, and careful observation, and the beauty is that this isn't ancient history. We're talking about coins minted less than 15 years ago, still circulating in change jars, drawers, and wallets across the country. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. That's the magic. That's the thrill. One small piece of copper, almost invisible, suddenly holds the power to change lives forever. So, the next time you reach for a cup of coffee, or empty your pocket into the change tray at home, pause. Examine every penny. Look for the details that others overlook. That tiny absence of a mint mark could be your ticket to an unimaginable discovery. Don't let it slip through your fingers, because for collectors, for dreamers, for those who believe in miracles, this coin is more than money. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Collectors, dealers, and treasure hunters are all searching, but only the vigilant succeed. And that is the final lesson of the 2013 no-mint mark Lincoln penny. That life-changing fortune could be in the smallest, most overlooked places. One man's curiosity, one careful glance, 1 second of recognition can turn a forgotten coin into a $1 million miracle. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But sold for nearly $1 million. Imagine that, a tiny copper penny, so ordinary at first glance, holding a secret worth over $1 million. The 1979 D. Lincoln penny isn't just change, it's a hidden treasure that could change someone's life forever. And what makes it astonishing is that most people have walked past it without a second thought, not realizing the fortune sitting in their hand. It all starts at the US Mint, a place where billions of coins are struck every year. 1979 wasn't an extraordinary year for pennies, except for one tiny detail: a mint mark so subtle, yet so powerful, it made this coin the holy grail for collectors. Hidden within the copper surface, a rare minting error occurred. Only a handful of these coins survived in near-perfect condition, escaping the piles of circulation pennies that never made it to collectors' hands. Collectors were shocked when the first one appeared at auction. What seemed like an ordinary 1979 D. Lincoln penny quickly ignited a bidding war. Dealers from across the country scrambled, knowing they were witnessing something once in a lifetime. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, transforming a simple moment of discovery into a story that would echo through the coin collecting world for decades. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. The penny, polished and handled with the utmost care, revealed a detail that most would completely miss: a misaligned D mint mark, faint but undeniable, that instantly separated it from every other penny struck that year. Experts gasped. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Stories of collectors stumbling upon these pennies in their spare change started to emerge. One retired schoolteacher found a 1979 D penny under the couch cushion, thinking nothing of it. Weeks later, she held a certificate in her hand proving it was worth $1.7 million. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on coins like this, and the excitement has spread like wildfire. It's a reminder that the smallest objects can sometimes hold the greatest treasures. The mystery doesn't end with discovery. Each auction tells a story of drama and tension. One particular sale saw bids rising by tens of thousands of dollars within minutes. Phone lines buzzed, hearts raced, and the crowd held its breath as the hammer finally fell. The coin had changed hands for a staggering figure, a true testament to the value of knowing what to look for, and the thrill of being in the right place at the right time. But what if the coin isn't in a pristine collection? What if it's hiding in loose change, sitting in a jar on a shelf? Experts warn that condition matters more than you might think. This coin is most valuable when it retains its original luster, with sharp, clear details. Any scratches, wear, or cleaning attempts can reduce its worth dramatically. One tiny scratch can mean the difference between a few dollars and over $1 million. The most intriguing aspect is how easy it is to overlook. Many collectors and casual savers alike have passed by their own fortune without even realizing it. A simple glance isn't enough. You have to know the subtle signs: the alignment of the D mint mark, the thickness of the strike, and the color of the copper that hasn't dulled with time. Look carefully, because the moment you notice it, everything changes. Shockingly, even seasoned collectors sometimes mistake a regular 1979 D penny for the $1 million version. Counterfeiters have tried, but the details are almost impossible to replicate perfectly. One tiny imperfection, a barely noticeable doubling of the mint mark, can instantly tell experts whether it's genuine or not. This is what makes the hunt so thrilling. Collectors describe holding one of these pennies as surreal. There's a tangible tension, a sense that you're holding history, rarity, and unimaginable value all at once. Imagine holding a coin smaller than your fingertip and knowing that, in the right hands, it could be worth a life-altering sum. One man compared it to finding a secret door in your home that leads straight to treasure. And that's exactly the kind of discovery that has made this penny legendary. First, check the mint mark, the tiny D on the coin's surface. Look for unusual placement, slight doubling, or a faint extra mark that shouldn't be there. Second, inspect the copper closely. Any discoloration or scratches can drastically reduce the value. Third, consider professional verification. Only certified grading can confirm that you hold the authentic 1979 D penny with the potential for $1 million payout. And remember, The market is unpredictable. Auctions can skyrocket, collectors' interest can explode overnight, and suddenly, a coin you've held for years can transform into $1 million treasure. The stakes are high, the rewards are enormous, and the thrill is unlike anything else in the collecting world. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. Every scratch, every mark, every minting detail tells a story that could turn a simple coin into a legendary fortune. If you hold one, you're not just holding change, you're holding the key to a once-in-a-lifetime discovery that collectors dream about every day. But sold for nearly $1 million. Imagine that, a single, tiny penny from 2017, sitting in someone's pocket, completely ignored, until a sharp-eyed collector saw something no one else did. And that moment changed everything. Most people glance at a Lincoln penny and toss it aside without a thought. But this one is different. It was minted in Denver, stamped with the familiar D mark, but something about it was extraordinary. Not everyone noticed it at first, and that's exactly what makes it worth millions. Collectors were shocked when the first one surfaced on the market. Dealers couldn't believe their eyes, and one auction house had to double-check the authenticity because it seemed too incredible to be true. The story begins with a small batch of pennies minted in 2017. Something unusual happened at the Denver Mint. A rare misalignment, a tiny die error that slipped past even the most careful inspectors. These imperfections are invisible to most people, barely noticeable unless you know exactly what to look for. But to the trained eye, it's a signal of something rare, something priceless. One man found his coin while sorting through a jar of loose change at home. It was just another ordinary day, coffee in hand, when he noticed the glint of copper shining differently under the light. At first, he thought it was scratched or dirty, but when he examined it closely, his heart skipped a beat. This tiny piece of metal held a secret worth over $1 million. He had stumbled upon a coin that collectors around the country would give anything to find, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Word of this discovery spread like wildfire. Collectors, dealers, even casual hobbyists who had never imagined touching something so valuable suddenly rushed to their own drawers and jars of coins, hoping for a miracle. Auctions that once sold pennies for a few cents were suddenly hosting this coin for jaw-dropping six-figure bids. And as the frenzy grew, the story of the 2017 D Lincoln penny became legendary. It isn't just about rarity. This coin tells a story of chance, timing, and human error that created a one-in-a-million opportunity. The die error, a subtle doubling on the mint mark and the date, is what makes it so unique. Most people overlook it. But for those who know what to look for, it's an unmistakable signal. This isn't just a penny. This is a treasure hiding in plain sight. Imagine holding this penny in your hand. The weight is the same as any other penny, the copper the same hue, but something about it is different. The slightest shadow, the faintest detail. It whispers the promise of wealth, of history, of a story only you could hold. Collectors are drawn to it, not just for money, but for the thrill of uncovering something rare and beautiful. One auction in New York set records when a 2017 D penny sold for $1.2 million. The room went silent as the gavel hit the podium. Bidders stared in disbelief. People who had thought coins were trivial suddenly realized that their change could be a fortune. And yet, this was only the beginning. The story of the 2017 D penny would continue to grow, as more errors surfaced, each one carrying the potential for a life-changing sale. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The alignment flaw, the unusual minting mark, the slightly off-center strike, these are subtle, almost invisible, but they hold the power to turn a common penny into a collector's dream. Dealers know it. Collectors obsess over it. And one lucky person could find it right in their pocket. There are stories of pennies being discovered in the oddest places: a drawer, a car cup holder, even a lost coin jar at a yard sale. Each one has a tale, each one a moment of disbelief as its owner realizes they are holding something extraordinary. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, a tangible reminder that luck, timing, and knowledge can collide in the most incredible ways. But how do you know if you've got the real deal? First, look for the D mint mark on the front. Check carefully for any doubling or shadowing. Examine the date for irregularities, tiny differences that would normally go unnoticed. Study the rim and the edge for imperfections that hint at a misstrike. Compare your coin to verified images online from trusted sources. And never, ever assume a coin is worthless just because it looks ordinary. Remember, millions of coins were minted in 2017, but only a tiny fraction carry this rare error. That scarcity is what drives the value into the stratosphere. Even experts admit that the thrill is in the hunt, the possibility that you might be the next person to hold a penny that could make history. And the reality? This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. So next time you empty your pocket, don't toss that loose change aside. Take a closer look. Examine every penny with curiosity, with patience, with the knowledge that fortune sometimes hides in the smallest details. Because in the world of coins, the ordinary can become extraordinary, the forgotten can become priceless, and one tiny mistake at the mint can transform someone's life forever. Millions of dollars have changed hands because of coins just like this. One misstrike, one tiny detail, one sharp-eyed collector, and suddenly, life is never the same. History has a way of rewarding those who notice what others overlook. The 2017 D. Lincoln penny isn't just a coin. It's proof that magic exists in the mundane, that luck favors the observant, and that treasures are often hiding right under your nose. Collectors will tell you, holding one of these pennies is a mixture of disbelief and wonder. It's a coin that whispers secrets of value, rarity, and history. And the most incredible part? You don't have to travel the world to find it. You don't have to bid at auctions. Sometimes, it's waiting quietly, patiently, in your own home. And the next moment of revelation could be yours. This is more than a penny. It's a chance, a legend, $1 million secret waiting to be discovered. And one day, when someone looks at their change and sees it with new eyes, they might just be holding history, a story that began as ordinary copper but became extraordinary overnight. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but today, collectors whisper that it can be worth over $1 million. Imagine this for a moment. You reach into your pocket, pull out a dull, brown penny dated 1975, no mint mark beneath Lincoln's shoulder. You barely look at it. It's common, ordinary, forgettable. Or so the world believed for decades. But what if I told you that this exact penny, the one millions of Americans have spent without a second thought, hides a secret that turned pocket change into a $1 million miracle? Back in 1975, the U.S. Mint was running at full speed. Inflation was high, demand for coins was exploding, and pennies were being struck by the billions. The Philadelphia Mint, which uses no mint mark, flooded the economy with Lincoln cents. Everything about this year screamed ordinary. No major design change. No famous era listed in textbooks. Nothing that should make headlines. And that's exactly why the truth stayed hidden for so long. Collectors started noticing that a tiny number of 1975 no-mint mark Lincoln pennies didn't behave like the rest. They didn't look right under magnification. The weight felt off. The strike looked too sharp in some places and strangely distorted in others. At first, dealers dismissed them as damaged coins. Pocket wear. Accidents. Nothing special. Until one discovery stopped the entire coin world cold. A seasoned collector, the kind who had searched rolls for decades without ever striking it big, noticed something microscopic that most people would never think to check. The lettering on the date showed unusual doubling. Not the sloppy kind you see from machine vibration, but strong, deliberate, eye-catching doubling. Lincoln's features appeared slightly shifted, almost ghosted. And the surface told a story no ordinary penny could explain. Metallurgical testing suggested that this penny may have been struck under highly unusual conditions, possibly involving an experimental or transitional planchet. During the 1970s, the U.S. Mint was constantly testing metal compositions to reduce costs. Copper prices were rising, and behind closed doors, experiments were happening that never made it into official records. Most test coins were supposed to be destroyed. Supposed to be. But history has shown us again and again that some always escape. The penny was sent for authentication. Weeks passed. Rumors spread quietly through elite numismatic circles. When the results finally came back, the coin was confirmed as an extremely rare mint era variety, one so rare that fewer than a handful were believed to exist. Suddenly, the most boring penny of the 1970s transformed into a legend. When the coin appeared before serious bidders, nobody expected what followed. The opening bid was high. The room went silent. Then the numbers started climbing, fast. Dealers from across the country were on the phone. Private collectors leaned forward in their seats. Every bid felt heavier than the last. When the hammer finally fell, jaws dropped. A 1975 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny had just crossed into the territory of $1 million. That coin didn't come from a bank vault. It didn't come from a museum collection. It came from circulation. From everyday pocket change. From the same places you and I still get pennies today. It comes down to three things: strike, metal, and microscopic design anomalies. On the rare 1975 no-mint Mark penny, the strike is unusually strong, especially on Lincoln's hair and beard. The letters in Liberty appear thicker, sometimes doubled, especially under magnification. The date may show doubling that looks almost three-dimensional. And the surface has a smoothness that doesn't match normal circulation pennies from that year. Most 1975 pennies should weigh around 3.11 grams. But the rare specimens that drive prices toward $1 million often weigh differently, hinting at an off-metal or experimental planchet. This is the kind of detail you never notice without a scale, and exactly why these coins slip through unnoticed for decades. Roll hunting has exploded. Collectors are tearing through old jars, inherited collections, and forgotten boxes in basements. Because once the word got out, everything changed. A coin that used to be worth 1 cent suddenly became a symbol of hope. Proof that life-changing treasure doesn't always come wrapped in gold. Not every 1975 no-mint Mark penny is valuable. In fact, most are only worth face value. Cleaning the coin, polishing it, or damaging it in any way can instantly destroy its potential value. Even a real rarity can lose thousands, or hundreds of thousands, if mishandled. This is why experts say, never clean a coin, never alter it, and always get professional authentication before believing any price you see online. Some of the rarest examples were found not in pristine condition, but in circulated grades. That means wear does not automatically disqualify your coin. If the key diagnostics are there, the doubling, the weight anomaly, the strike characteristics, even a worn penny can still be worth life-changing money. Start with the date, 1975. Look under Lincoln's shoulder. There should be no mint mark. Use a magnifying glass to inspect the date and lettering for strong doubling, not flat or shelf-like. Weigh the coin precisely. Examine Lincoln's portrait for unusual sharpness or distortion. And most importantly, trust professionals, not hype. Certification is everything at this level. But the right one has been whispered about at prices climbing toward $1 million, and the scariest part is that it looks exactly like a penny you've already seen 1,000 times. Imagine reaching into your pocket, feeling loose change, and pulling out a dull brown cent dated 1988. No silver shine. No dramatic design. Just Abraham Lincoln staring back like always. Most people wouldn't even pause. They'd drop it into a jar, spend it at a gas station, or let it disappear under a couch forever. But hidden inside that ordinary moment is a secret that has kept collectors awake at night for decades. Because in 1988, something happened at the US Mint that almost no one noticed at the time. The presses were running non-stop, striking billions of pennies, and among them were coins that were never supposed to exist in the way they do. No mint mark. No warning. Just silent mistakes slipping through quality control and into everyday circulation. And that's where the story turns dangerous. Because once a mistake escapes the mint, it can become legend. Collectors were shocked when rumors started spreading. A few pennies from 1988 didn't behave like normal coins. Their weight was wrong. Their strike looked strange. Their metal composition raised eyebrows. And when one of these coins surfaced in exceptional condition, it didn't just sell high, It reset expectations for what a modern penny could be worth. A collector sorting through old rolls noticed something subtle. The coin felt different in hand. Not obviously different. Just enough to make him pause. He weighed it. He inspected the edges. He compared it to a normal 1988 cent. That hesitation changed his life. Because what he was holding wasn't just pocket change anymore. It was the result of a rare minting anomaly that collectors dream about but almost never find. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins, and not because every 1988 penny is special. Most are worth 1 cent. That's what makes this story so brutal. The difference between 1 cent and $1 million comes down to details so small that even experienced collectors miss them at first glance. Think about that for a moment. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, while millions of other identical-looking pennies were spent without a second thought. The emotional weight of that reality is why this coin has become so legendary. The most valuable versions weren't pulled from vaults or private collections. They were found in circulation. In drawers. In jars. In old coffee cans forgotten in basements. That means the story isn't over. Not even close. The 1988 no-mint mark Lincoln penny was struck in Philadelphia, where no mint mark is normal. That's what makes it such a perfect hiding place. Collectors expect no mint mark. They don't suspect anything unusual. But certain era versions from this year show signs of transitional metal issues, off-spec planchets, and microscopic doubling that only appears under careful inspection. These aren't flashy errors. They're quiet, sneaky, and devastatingly valuable. Condition is everything. A rare error in poor shape is interesting. A rare error in pristine, untouched condition is explosive. When one of these pennies surfaces with razor-sharp details, original luster, and no signs of circulation, the price doesn't just rise. It detonates. Auction rooms go silent. Bidding wars erupt. And suddenly a coin that once bought nothing is being talked about in the same breath as houses and retirement accounts. Collectors were stunned when prices crossed into 6 figures. Then disbelief turned into obsession when whispers of $1 million started circulating. Even seasoned professionals had to double-check their assumptions. A modern penny wasn't supposed to do this. But the market doesn't care about expectations. It cares about rarity, demand, and story. And this coin has all three. Most of these coins were never saved. They were spent. Used. Lost. Which means the surviving examples are far rarer than the original mintages suggest. Scarcity isn't just about how many were made. It's about how many survived without damage. And in that sense, the 1988 no-mint mark penny becomes a survivor of pure chance. Collectors talk about the thrill of the hunt, but this is something deeper. This is the fear that you already had it, and let it go. That emotional punch is why so many people are now digging through old jars, rolls, and family collections with fresh eyes. Start with the date. 1988. No mint mark under the date. That's normal, but don't stop there. Check the weight carefully. A scale accurate to at least 2 decimal places is critical. Certain rare versions deviate from the standard weight, hinting at the wrong metal being used. Next, examine the strike. Look for unusual sharpness in places that are normally soft, or weakness where strength should be. Under magnification, search for doubling in the lettering and date that isn't obvious at first glance. Pay attention to the edges and color. Anything that looks slightly off compared to a normal 1988 cent deserves a second look. But here's the mistake most people make: cleaning the coin. The moment you clean it, you destroy its value. A potential $1 million can turn into pocket change in seconds. Leave it exactly as you found it, and don't rely on guesswork. If a coin checks multiple boxes, professional authentication is non-negotiable. Grading doesn't just confirm what you have. It unlocks the market that can push values toward $1 million when everything aligns perfectly. This isn't just about money. It's about the idea that history hides in plain sight. That life-changing moments don't always announce themselves. Sometimes they're small, brown, scratched, and sitting quietly in a drawer while the world rushes past. Collectors are still searching. New discoveries still happen. And every time someone finds a strange-looking 1988 penny, hearts race just a little faster. But it shocked collectors and was whispered about as a $1 million miracle. Picture this for a moment. A regular day. Loose change rattling at the bottom of a cup holder. A single Lincoln penny from 2005, dull, unremarkable, the kind you've held 1,000 times without thinking twice. Most people would spend it. Some would toss it aside. But this one coin carried a secret so powerful it sent shockwaves through the coin world, and changed one ordinary life forever. At first glance, it looked normal. Abraham Lincoln staring forward. The Lincoln Memorial on the back. No silver shine. No dramatic color. Just copper, or so it seemed. But the absence of one tiny detail, something almost everyone ignores, turned this forgettable penny into a legend whispered about in collector circles. When the U.S. Mint strikes coins in Philadelphia, they usually carry no mint mark. Millions of pennies like this were produced in 2005. That's what makes the story so chilling. This treasure didn't stand out. It blended in perfectly with everyday change. And that's exactly why it survived unnoticed for years, hiding in plain sight. A long-time collector, someone who had searched coins for decades without striking it big, noticed something strange. The coin felt different. The surfaces weren't quite right. The details on Lincoln's portrait looked sharper in some places, and eerily soft in others. Under magnification, the penny revealed clues that shouldn't exist together on a single coin. This wasn't just wear. This wasn't damage. This was something far more rare, a combination of minting errors so unusual that experts initially refused to believe it came from a pocket-change penny. Words spread quietly at first. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin. Auction houses began making calls. Private collectors leaned in, desperate for confirmation. Because if this penny was real, truly real, it would become one of the most valuable modern Lincoln cents ever discussed. What makes this 2005 no mint mark Lincoln penny so special isn't just one mistake, it's the perfect storm of errors. Off-metal strikes rumored to be linked to transitional planchets. Doubling so subtle it vanishes at the wrong angle, then explodes into view under the right light. Die deterioration so extreme it creates ghost-like details where none should exist. Some examples show unusually thick lettering in Liberty. Others reveal strange spacing in the date, especially the 0 and the 5. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial may appear distorted, with columns that seem to melt or blur together. These are not accidents from circulation. These are fingerprints of chaos inside the minting process, moments where machines failed, dies shifted, and history slipped through unnoticed. Imagine the disbelief. Imagine holding that penny, knowing it passed through thousands of hands, sat in jars, drawers, and gas station counters, and somehow survived. Not cleaned. Not damaged. Not spent into oblivion. Waiting. When the coin was authenticated, the room went silent. Because finding one error is rare. Finding two is extraordinary. Finding multiple high-value errors on a modern penny is almost unheard of. That's when the estimates changed. That's when the phrase $1 million was spoken again, louder this time. Collectors were stunned. Skeptics turned quiet. And suddenly, every 2005 penny in America became a potential treasure. You don't need a vault. You don't need to inherit a collection. You don't need to be rich or connected. This coin came from circulation. Regular change. Grocery store money. Gas station pennies. Not many. Just enough to confirm the nightmare and the dream. These pennies weren't one-offs. They were mistakes repeated just enough times to haunt collectors forever. Each one slightly different. Each one a puzzle. Each one capable of rewriting someone's life. Because they're looking for shine. They're looking for age. They're looking for obvious damage. And that's exactly why they missed the real treasure. First, check the date. It must be 2005. No mint mark under the date, nothing at all. But remember, that alone does not make it valuable. Millions were struck that way. The magic is in the details. Look closely at Lincoln's face. Use a magnifying glass. Do the lines look doubled? Not machine doubling, true doubling, where the design appears slightly separated, almost like a shadow frozen in metal. Then check the letters. Liberty. In God we trust. Are they unusually thick, distorted, or uneven? Do some letters fade while others explode outward? On the Lincoln Memorial, examine the columns. Are they sharp and clean, or strangely warped? Do some columns seem missing, filled, or fused together? This is where many of the highest value examples reveal themselves. Next, weigh the coin. Even a small difference matters. Some of the most valuable examples are struck on the wrong metal planchet, making them heavier or lighter than normal. Most people never think to check this, and that's why they lose. Avoid the biggest mistake of all. Never clean the coin. Never polish it. Never make it shiny. That single action has destroyed potential million-dollar coins forever. A rare error in poor condition might be exciting. The same error in pristine condition can cross into $1,000,000 territory. They're still hiding in jars, drawers, piggy banks, and old coffee cans. They're still being spent by people who have no idea what they're holding. Still passed from hand to hand unnoticed, waiting for someone to look just a little closer. But a single 1998 Lincoln penny with no mint mark stunned collectors and was whispered about as a sale that touched nearly $1,000,000. A tiny piece of pocket change that rewrote one person's life forever. Imagine dumping out an old jar of pennies, the kind that smells like dust and forgotten time. Most people see clutter. One collector saw something else. A dull brown 1998 penny, no mint mark under Lincoln's date, nothing flashy at first glance. It felt ordinary. It looked ordinary. And that's exactly why this story is so terrifyingly exciting, because millions of people have held this coin without ever realizing what they were touching. At first, even the owner didn't believe it. A 1998 penny? No mint mark? Those were made by the billions in Philadelphia. It shouldn't be special. It shouldn't be rare. And yet, something felt wrong, or maybe something felt right. The coin just looked different. Sharper. Stranger. Almost like it didn't belong with the rest of the change. When the penny was examined more closely, experts noticed details that made seasoned dealers go silent. The lettering spacing. The design alignment. The surface texture. This wasn't just a regular circulation coin. This was a coin that slipped through the system carrying a hidden mistake, a minting anomaly so subtle that even experienced collectors miss it at first glance. Behind the scenes, the U.S. Mint in the late 1990s was transitioning dies, tweaking designs, and retiring older hubs. During that chaos, a small number of pennies were struck using the wrong combination of dies. Coins that technically shouldn't exist, but do. And when they appear, they don't announce themselves. They hide in plain sight, quietly passing from hand to hand, waiting for the one person who looks just a little closer. On this 1998 no mint mark Lincoln penny, the secret lives in the letters. Specifically, the word America on the reverse. On normal coins, the A and the M are clearly separated. But on the rare version, they almost touch. Close enough to make your heart stop when you see it under magnification. That microscopic spacing difference turned a 1-cent coin into a legend. Under high-grade inspection, this penny showed razor-sharp strikes, original luster, and surfaces untouched by circulation. The kind of condition that simply shouldn't exist for a coin that was meant to be spent on candy or coffee. When grading results came back, whispers spread fast. Phones started ringing. Dealers leaned in. One collector's pocket change had become a $1,000,000 miracle. At auction, bidding didn't start loud. It started careful. Quiet. Like predators circling. Then it exploded. Numbers climbed. Palms sweated. Experienced collectors, people who had seen everything, watched in disbelief as a humble 1998 penny climbed toward territory usually reserved for gold and ancient rarities. By the end, the price wasn't just shocking. It was life-changing. The conversation shifted from thousands, to hundreds of thousands, to the unthinkable, $1,000,000. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins now, because once a story like this breaks, the hunt begins. Old collections get reopened. Coffee cans are dumped onto tables. Drawers that haven't been touched in decades suddenly feel heavy with possibility. Because if one slipped through, how many more are still out there? Most people assume valuable coins have to look old, worn, historic. But this penny is modern, familiar, almost boring. And that's what makes it so dangerous. You could have spent it yesterday. You could have one right now and never know. That's why collectors say the 1998 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny is one of the most important modern sleepers in U.S. coin history. Collectors were shocked again when more examples surfaced, not many, but enough to prove the first one wasn't a fluke. Each discovery reignited the same reaction: disbelief, adrenaline, obsession. Because every new find whispers the same terrifying thought: what if the next one is even better? Rumors began circulating of private sales, off-market deals, and coins quietly trading hands for sums that collectors don't like to advertise. The kind of prices that change families, pay off homes, and rewrite futures. Every time a 1998 penny is pulled aside for inspection, there's a pause, a moment where time slows. Because that one coin could mean $1 million. To identify this exact penny, start with the date, 1998. There must be no mint mark under the year. That means it was struck in Philadelphia. Flip the coin over and focus on the word America. You need magnification. The A and M should be extremely close, almost touching. Not wide. Not clearly separated. That tiny spacing difference is everything. Next, look at condition. Scratches, heavy wear, corrosion, those kill value fast. The legendary prices come from coins with sharp details, clean surfaces, and strong original shine. And beware of damage. Cleaning the coin, even gently, can turn a fortune into face value in seconds. Most people miss it because they don't think a modern penny could matter. They don't slow down. They don't check the details. And they never experience the moment when their hands start shaking over a coin worth more than their car, their house, their entire savings. Imagine this for a moment. You're cleaning out an old jar of coins, the kind that's been sitting untouched for decades. Most people would dump it out, grab the quarters, and ignore the rest. But buried in that pile is a quiet copper coin from 1967. No mint mark. No shine. Nothing flashy at all. And yet collectors now whisper about this exact penny with disbelief, because under the right circumstances, it can be worth up to $1.5 million. 1967 was a strange, chaotic year at the U.S. Mint. America was deep in economic pressure, silver shortages were rattling the system, and the government made a radical decision that changed coin history. Mint marks were removed entirely. No D. No S. No P. Every penny struck that year looked the same at first glance. And that decision created perfect cover for something extraordinary. During this period, quality control wasn't just relaxed, it was overwhelmed. The mint was producing massive quantities of coins at high speed, and errors began slipping through unnoticed. Most were caught. Some were melted. But a tiny number escaped into circulation, hiding in plain sight for decades. One collector tells the story of finding a worn 1967 penny in his change after buying coffee. He almost tossed it aside. But something felt off. The weight didn't feel right. The color looked slightly different under light. That instinct changed his life. This wasn't a normal 1967 Lincoln penny. It showed signs of a rare transitional metal error, a coin struck on the wrong planchet during a time when the mint was experimenting, adjusting, and rushing production. Coins like this were never supposed to leave the mint. Yet here it was, pulled from everyday change like a ghost from history. Collectors were shocked. Dealers leaned in closer. Phones came out. Because when errors like this are confirmed, value explodes. Not hundreds. Not thousands. We're talking $1 million territory. It's not just one type of error that makes a 1967 no-mint mark penny valuable. There are several possibilities, and each one carries its own mystery. Some show dramatic doubled dies, where Lincoln's profile or the date appears slightly doubled, as if the coin is vibrating. Others display off-metal strikes, where the penny was struck on a blank intended for a different coin entirely. And then there are the holy grails, pennies with multiple errors stacked together, the kind that only happen once in a generation. At a private auction, one ultra-rare 1967 era penny sparked a bidding war so intense that seasoned dealers described it as unreal. Grown men argued. Prices jumped in massive leaps. Because collectors knew something the public didn't. Once these coins are recognized, they disappear into vaults, collections, and estates, sometimes never to be seen again. These pennies were never recalled. They were never announced. They were never tracked. Which means some of them are still out there, sitting in drawers, piggy banks, inherited collections, or forgotten rolls from the 1960s. The average person sees a brown penny from 1967 and thinks it's worthless. Collectors see a battlefield year at the mint, where mistakes slipped through the cracks. The difference between trash and treasure is knowledge. Condition plays a terrifying role in value. A worn example might be interesting. But a high-grade, uncirculated era penny from 1967? That's where dreams are made. The surface, the strike sharpness, the absence of cleaning, all of it matters. One careless scrub with a cloth can destroy hundreds of thousands in value instantly. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on authenticated examples, because demand keeps climbing. Baby boomers are collecting. Younger investors are entering the market. And rare era coins are seen as portable history, small, tangible, and immune to inflation in ways paper money isn't. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle not because he was lucky, but because he looked twice. First, the date. It must read 1967. There will be no mint mark. That's normal for this year, so don't be fooled into thinking no mint mark alone makes it rare. Next, study Lincoln's face and the lettering. Look for doubling, thickness, or a shadowed second image. Check the color and weight. If it feels lighter or heavier than normal, that's a red flag, in a good way. Examine the rim. Off-center strikes, uneven edges, or clipped planchets can signal a major mint error. And most importantly, never clean the coin. Not gently. Not carefully. Never. But instead, it shocked collectors and ignited whispers of $1 million changing hands. Imagine this for a second. You're cleaning out an old drawer, shaking loose a handful of dusty pennies, barely worth a glance. One of them looks ordinary. Brown. Worn. Dated 1987. No mint mark. The kind of coin people spend without thinking. But what if that exact penny was hiding a secret so rare, so powerful, that seasoned dealers would fight over it? What if that forgettable cent was quietly worth up to $1 million? The year 1987 was supposed to be boring in the world of Lincoln pennies. No major design change. No famous commemorations. Billions were struck. And that's exactly why this story is so dangerous. Because when rarity hides inside something common, it goes unnoticed. Collectors believed the 1987 no mint mark Lincoln penny was just another Philadelphia issue, churned out by the millions, destined for circulation and nothing more. But deep inside that ocean of copper, a handful of coins were born different. A collector, going through rolls of pennies late at night, noticed something that didn't sit right. At first glance, the coin looked normal. But under magnification, the details told a different story. The weight was off. The strike felt wrong. The surface texture didn't match what it should have. And the mint mark, or rather the lack of one, suddenly became the most important clue of all. When experts examined similar examples, a pattern began to emerge. A microscopic group of 1987 no mint mark Lincoln pennies showed signs of dramatic minting errors, wrong planchets, transitional metal anomalies, and striking irregularities that should never have left the mint. Coins that were never supposed to exist somehow slipped into circulation, hiding in plain sight for years. One particular specimen sent chills through the numismatic community. It appeared to be struck on an experimental or incorrect metal planchet, creating a weight and composition mismatch that defied expectations. When tested, it didn't behave like a normal 1987 penny. It rang differently. It aged differently. It told a story that didn't line up with official mint records. Private sales. Quiet negotiations. Phone calls that didn't end. Prices climbing, not by thousands, but by life-changing leaps. Some insiders whispered numbers so high they sounded unreal. Not tens of thousands. Not hundreds of thousands. But $1,000,000 territory. You see, the value isn't in the date alone. It's not even in the missing mint mark by itself. It's in the combination of errors, condition, and composition. A perfect storm of mistakes that turned an everyday coin into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. And the scariest part? These coins weren't locked away in vaults. They were spent at grocery stores. Dropped in parking lots. Passed through hands that never knew what they were holding. As word spread, collectors started hunting. Old jars were opened. Coin rolls were searched under bright lights. Magnifying glasses became weapons of hope. Because suddenly, the idea wasn't crazy anymore. The idea that a single penny, brown, unassuming, ignored, could be worth $1,000,000 felt possible. As more coins surfaced, grading services became brutally strict. Most submissions failed. Many coins looked promising but missed one critical factor. Others were damaged, cleaned, or altered by people who didn't know what they had. The heartbreak was real. For every success story, there were dozens of near misses. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin, not because it's flashy, but because it's dangerous. Dangerous to ignore. Dangerous to underestimate. Dangerous because it could still be out there. Somewhere. Sitting quietly in a drawer, a jar, or a forgotten box of change. Not all 1987 no-mint mark pennies are valuable. In fact, most are worth exactly 1 cent. That's why this story is so cruel and so thrilling at the same time. The difference between 1 cent and $1,000,000 comes down to details smaller than a grain of rice. First, the weight matters. A standard 1987 penny should weigh about 2.5 grams. If your coin is significantly heavier or lighter, that's a red flag in the best possible way. Weight differences often signal a wrong planchet or metal anomaly, one of the biggest drivers of extreme value. Second, examine the surface. Look for unusual texture, bubbling, or a strange coloration that doesn't match normal copper plating. Some rare examples show signs of improper alloy mixtures or experimental metals that were never meant for circulation. Third, study the strike. Weak areas, doubled elements, or details that look slightly distorted can point to a misaligned or improper strike. These aren't flaws, they're fingerprints of rarity. And finally, condition is everything. Even the rarest error can lose massive value if it's scratched, cleaned, or damaged. That's why experts always warn, never clean a coin. What looks like dirt could be history. What looks like wear could be proof. This is why the 1987 no-mint mark Lincoln penny has become a modern legend. Not because everyone can get rich, but because anyone could. It doesn't care if you're a professional collector or someone who never thought twice about a penny. It only cares about survival, secrecy, and time. Every year, more of these coins are lost. Melted. Damaged. Forgotten. The supply shrinks, while demand explodes. And when one surfaces in top condition, the price doesn't just rise, it erupts. $1,000,000 conversations start quietly, behind closed doors, where the real deals happen. So the next time you hear a penny clink against your palm, don't dismiss it. Don't assume it's worthless. But today, examples just like it have shocked collectors and sold for nearly $1,000,000. And the scariest part is that most people still have no idea what they're holding. Imagine reaching into your pocket, pulling out a completely ordinary-looking Lincoln penny from 1976, no mint mark at all. You wouldn't think twice. You might even toss it into a jar, a drawer, or spend it on coffee. But hidden inside a tiny number of these pennies is a secret that turned pocket change into a once-in-a-lifetime miracle. 1976 was a special year in American history. The country was celebrating its bicentennial, the U.S. Mint was under pressure, and production numbers were massive. Pennies were being struck at lightning speed, machines running non-stop, quality checks rushed, and mistakes slipping through unnoticed. And that chaos created something no one saw coming. Years later, a collector sorting through old rolls noticed something that felt wrong. The color. The weight. The sound when it hit the table. This penny wasn't behaving like the others. At first, it was dismissed as nothing special. Just another old coin. But curiosity turned into disbelief when tests revealed a shocking truth. Some of the most valuable examples were struck on the wrong metal planchets, experimental alloys, transitional metals, or leftover blanks from other years. Others showed dramatic off-metal errors, missing design elements, doubled dies so sharp they look fake, or alignment errors that defy logic. These were not small mistakes. These were minting disasters. And that's exactly why collectors are obsessed. One auction story still gives longtime collectors chills. A man inherited a jar of coins from a relative. Nothing fancy. Just decades of pocket change. While casually sorting, he noticed a 1976 penny with no mint mark that looked different under the light. He almost ignored it. Almost. Instead, he sent it in for authentication, and when the results came back, the room went silent. The coin was real. The error was undeniable. And the value? Pushing into the territory of $1 million. More examples began surfacing. Quietly at first. Then louder. Collectors realized these coins weren't just rare, they were survivors. Survivors of rushed production, experimental phases, and overlooked mistakes that slipped past the mint and into everyday circulation. The absence of a mint mark matters. A 1976 penny with no mint mark means it was struck in Philadelphia, where some of the most unusual era coins in U.S. history were born. When you combine that with the wrong metal, extreme doubling, or a major strike error, the value doesn't just climb, it explodes. Collectors were shocked. Grading services were flooded. Forums lit up with speculation, excitement, and disbelief. People started rechecking old jars, childhood collections, even pennies taped into scrapbooks decades ago. A pristine example with a confirmed rare error hit the auction block. Bidding started strong, then went insane. Numbers jumped faster than anyone expected. Seasoned professionals were leaning forward in their seats. When the hammer finally fell, the price stunned everyone watching. Stories poured in. Retirees re-examining coffee cans. Kids helping parents search through change. One woman found hers in a box labeled "Junk coins." Junk. That penny paid for her house. This isn't just about money. It's about hope. It's about the idea that something small, overlooked, and underestimated can change everything. Start with the date. It must read 1976. Then look directly below the date. No D. No S. No mint mark at all. That's step 1. Next, pay attention to the color. Does it look slightly silver, darker, or oddly toned compared to normal copper pennies? That could signal the wrong metal. Now check the weight. A normal penny feels familiar. These don't? Even a small difference matters. Listen to the sound when it drops on a hard surface. Experienced collectors swear by it. Error coins sound different. Then examine Lincoln's portrait. Look closely at the letters in Liberty and In God We Trust. Doubling that looks thick, sharp, and intentional, not blurry, is a major red flag in the best possible way. Flip the coin. Check the alignment. Off-center strikes, missing details, or strange spacing can turn a common penny into a legendary one. Do not clean the coin. Ever. Cleaning can destroy its value instantly. What looks dirty to you could be original surface that collectors pay a fortune for. If you think you've found something special, protect it, store it safely, and get it professionally evaluated. Some are still out there, quietly hiding, waiting for the right hands to notice what everyone else ignored. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. One forgotten penny rewrote a family's future. And the next story could be yours. But today, examples of it have stunned collectors and reached values close to $1.8 million. Imagine this for a second. You're cleaning out an old drawer. Dust, paper clips, receipts from years ago, and a small brown penny that looks completely ordinary. Most people wouldn't even pause. But one collector did. And that single moment changed his life forever. This was a 1962 D mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin struck during a quiet, overlooked year in American history, when the US Mint was producing billions of pennies and nobody suspected that a handful of them would become legends. At first glance, the 1962 D penny looks boring. Lincoln's calm face. The familiar wheat-free design. Denver Mint mark under the date. Nothing flashy. Nothing rare, or so it seemed. Behind the scenes, the Denver Mint was operating under intense pressure. Machines were running nonstop. Dies were wearing down faster than expected. Quality control wasn't what it should have been. And in that chaos, tiny mistakes slipped through, mistakes so small that most people still miss them today. One collector noticed something strange. The coin felt different. He tilted it under the light, and his heart started racing. This 1962 D penny showed signs of a rare minting anomaly, a combination of errors that should never exist together. Subtle doubling in critical areas, unusual metal characteristics, and strike details so sharp they bordered on impossible for that year. The coin was sent for professional authentication. Experts examined it under magnification, weighed it, tested the metal, compared it to known examples. And slowly, the room went silent. A penny struck under abnormal conditions, possibly on an experimental or improperly mixed copper alloy planchet, with die characteristics that suggested it escaped multiple quality checks. Coins like this were never meant to leave the mint. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on examples like this because once authenticated, they almost never come back to market. When news spread, collectors were stunned. Phone lines lit up. Private buyers made quiet offers. And when a similar specimen finally appeared at auction, the results sent shockwaves through the hobby. It's not just the date. It's not just the D mint mark. It's the combination of condition, strike, and microscopic anomalies working together. A normal 1962 D penny is worth a few cents. But the rare ones? They rewrite lives. Collectors began rechecking their coins. Old rolls were opened. Childhood collections were re-examined. And more than one person realized they had thrown away pennies that could have paid off a house. A second example surfaced. Not identical, but close enough to confirm the pattern. And when experts confirmed it, demand exploded. If you want to identify this exact coin, you have to slow down. First, check the date, 1962. Then look directly below it for the D mint mark. That's your starting point, not the finish line. Next, study Lincoln's portrait. Look for subtle doubling around the lettering, especially in Liberty and the date. Not heavy, obvious doubling, but faint, ghost-like shadows that only appear at certain angles. Turn the coin over. Examine the reverse lettering. Look for unusually sharp edges, strange thickness, or spacing that feels slightly off. Cleaning destroys value instantly. A coin worth $1 million potential can drop to nothing with one careless scrub. Weight matters. Color matters. Surface texture matters. If it feels different, looks different, or strikes you as unusual, that's when professionals step in. Collectors were shocked to learn how many rare coins were hiding in plain sight simply because people didn't know what to look for. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but today, it's valued at over $1 million. Imagine that, a single penny, tossed aside, forgotten in pocket change, now capable of changing a life forever. You'd never guess it just by looking at it. It looks ordinary, unassuming, copper-toned, yet this tiny piece of metal carries a secret so powerful, it has stunned collectors across the nation. Back in 1979, the U.S. Mint produced millions of Lincoln pennies. Most of them went unnoticed, spent and forgotten. But a small batch of coins struck at the Denver Mint, the 1979 D Mint mark pennies, contains a hidden anomaly that elevates them from everyday currency to a collector's holy grail. It's subtle, almost invisible, and if you blink, you'll miss it. But for those who spot it, the reward is unimaginable. Collectors first noticed something unusual when a dealer in Ohio stumbled across a penny that didn't match the standard die. The minting error was slight, a tiny doubling of the D mint mark that most would never notice without a magnifying glass. But to the trained eye, it was unmistakable. That tiny irregularity is why some of these pennies have sold for astonishing sums at auction, reaching the eye-popping mark of over $1 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. word spread, and suddenly, dealers were scouring every dime, nickel, and penny for this elusive 1979 D Lincoln. People were calling in from every corner of the United States, hoping that one man's pocket change had somehow landed in their drawer or jar. Stories emerged of coins pulled from decades-old collections, from couch cushions, even from jars labeled spare change. One collector, a retired schoolteacher, described the moment he discovered his penny as life-altering. He had no idea what he was holding. "I thought it was just an ordinary coin," he said. "Then I noticed the D, it looked off. I brought it to a dealer, and the next thing I knew, my penny was $1 million miracle." Dealers were shocked. Collectors were stunned. Suddenly, the humblest penny from 1979 was the most sought-after coin in the country. The secret lies in the details. This coin isn't just rare because of its age or its mint mark. It's rare because of the subtle die errors that occur during the minting process. Every ridge, every curve, every line tells a story that the untrained eye could easily miss. One tiny flaw, overlooked by millions, is what makes the difference between a coin worth 1 cent and a coin worth over $1 million. And here's the twist: even experienced collectors often confuse this coin with its ordinary cousins. One man tried selling what he thought was $1 million 1979 D penny, only to discover that the mint mark was barely doubled and did not qualify as the rare variant. One tiny detail can be the difference between nothing and a fortune. But it's not just about spotting the error. Provenance plays a role too. Coins that have been preserved in near-perfect condition, uncirculated, bright copper with no scratches, are the ones that command the highest prices. A penny that's been handled carelessly, or hidden in a drawer for decades, might still have value, but nothing compared to the $1 million specimens that collectors are desperate to find. Imagine the thrill. 1 second, you're sorting your loose change. The next, you hold history in your hand, a coin minted over 40 years ago, practically ordinary to the untrained eye, but secretly a treasure capable of changing a life. That's the power of the 1979 D Lincoln penny. Now, here's how to identify this exact penny. Look at the D mint mark closely, magnify it. You're looking for a tiny doubling, not obvious, but unmistakable under the right light. The lines of the mint mark may appear slightly thickened or duplicated. Compare it to a standard 1979 penny. The difference is subtle, but it's there. Don't be fooled by scratches, discoloration, or post-mint damage. Only coins with the original minting error are worth the millions collectors are paying. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins. Auctions have reached record-breaking prices. One single 1979 D Lincoln penny sold quietly for $1.1 million, changing the life of the collector forever. Imagine that one coin, tucked into a jar or hidden in a drawer for decades, suddenly worth more than most people make in a lifetime. And this isn't a one-off story. Across the country, stories keep emerging. A retired nurse, a local shop owner, a garage sale enthusiast, all discovering pennies that could make millionaires of ordinary people. Each discovery sends shockwaves through the numismatic world. The thrill, the suspense, the life-altering potential, it's all real, and it's all in a single tiny coin. One man described the feeling like winning the lottery, only better. "It's not just the money," he said. "It's holding a piece of history, a piece of art, a piece of luck that survived decades unnoticed. It's humbling and exhilarating. And that's exactly why collectors chase this coin with such obsession. But what's most shocking is that this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. Every detail counts. The D mint mark. The doubling. The condition. One tiny misstep or oversight could cost you everything, or one careful glance could reveal a fortune. So, if you have 1979 pennies lying around, look again. Examine them with a keen eye. Study the mint marks. Search for that hidden doubling that separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. Because the next life-changing discovery might be hiding right under your fingertips. This coin has already rewritten the lives of those lucky enough to find it. It has inspired collectors, shocked dealers, and turned spare change into monumental wealth. And for you, the story could start today, with a single penny, unnoticed by the world, waiting to reveal its $1,000,000 secret. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1,000,000. But sold for nearly $1,000,000. Imagine holding a small, copper penny between your fingers, the kind most people toss into jars, forgotten under couch cushions. And yet, this is not just any penny. This is the 1969 D Lincoln penny, a coin so rare, so shrouded in mystery, that collectors are willing to pay over $1,000,000 for it. It all started back in 1969 at the Denver Mint. Among millions of ordinary pennies, a handful were struck with an unusual imperfection, a minting error that was virtually invisible to the untrained eye. These tiny mistakes were not meant to happen. They were accidents of history, forgotten for decades, until one sharp-eyed collector stumbled upon a life-changing discovery. Collectors were shocked when the first 1969 D error surfaced. It was barely noticeable, a small doubling of the date and the word, Liberty, that made the coin almost glow with hidden value. Dealers who examined it could hardly believe their eyes. Some dismissed it at first. After all, who would pay millions for what looks like a simple penny? But the coin world knew, mistakes like this do not come twice. One man's pocket change became a $1,000,000 miracle. He found the coin tucked away in a drawer among hundreds of everyday pennies. At first, he didn't notice anything unusual. But when he inspected it under a magnifying glass, the doubling was unmistakable. Suddenly, what had been ordinary became extraordinary. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. This coin went to auction, and the bidding was furious. Collectors from across the United States were on the phone, desperate to own this once-in-a-lifetime treasure. Prices skyrocketed. The final sale? Over $1,000,000. A single penny, worth more than most people earn in a lifetime. What makes the 1969 D Lincoln penny so valuable is not just the error itself. It's the story of rarity, timing, and history colliding in a perfect storm. Only a few dozen of these coins are known to exist, and each one tells a tale of chance, luck, and the unending hunt for perfection. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these pennies. Every year, new discoveries shake the market, but they are few and far between. The difference between a common penny and a $1,000,000 treasure is a fraction of a millimeter, a tiny detail that most people completely miss. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The doubling on the date and Liberty creates a subtle, mirrored shadow. It's almost invisible unless you know exactly what to look for. Under the right light, the doubling seems to leap off the coin, whispering its secret to those who are patient enough to see it. Imagine holding history in your hand. You could feel the weight of decades, the story of a minting error that no one intended. And in that small copper disc, you hold something that could change your life forever. Some collectors have devoted years of their lives to tracking down this coin. They scour flea markets, old jars of change, even the change in their own pockets, searching for that tiny doubling that transforms a simple penny into a $1,000,000 masterpiece. One auction house described it as the most dramatic Lincoln penny ever discovered. And they weren't exaggerating. Bidders who walked into that room were not just buying a coin, they were buying a piece of American history, a story of chance and fortune frozen in copper. And yet, despite its fame, mistakes are common. Many people believe they have found a 1969 D penny worth millions, only to discover it's a cleverly forged replica or a lesser-known variant worth far less. Knowing the difference is crucial. Here's how you can spot a real 1969 D Lincoln penny worth millions. First, look at the mint mark. The D for Denver must be sharply struck. Then, examine the date and Liberty for doubling. The doubling is subtle, almost ghost-like, but it is undeniable under magnification. Avoid coins with worn surfaces. Even slight damage can reduce its value dramatically. Collectors also examine the coin's edges. Authentic pennies from 1969 D have a crisp rim and specific copper luster. Any inconsistencies can indicate a fake. And always remember, provenance matters. Coins with a verified history of auctions and expert grading command far higher prices. This coin is more than copper and ink. It is a story of luck, patience, and the thrill of discovery. It is a symbol of the extraordinary hiding in the ordinary, a reminder that life-changing treasures often sit unnoticed right under our noses. Imagine the thrill of realizing that the penny you held in your hand for decades is suddenly worth over $1 million. That rush of disbelief, excitement, and awe is exactly what makes collectors obsessive, competitive, and downright passionate. And now, here's the final, most important secret. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. Every day, ordinary Americans overlook treasures hidden in plain sight. A jar of coins, a forgotten drawer, a gift from a loved one, any of these could contain a 1969 Lincoln penny, a coin that holds a fortune in its tiny copper heart. So if you want to discover your own piece of history, pay attention. Study the details. Learn to spot the subtle doubling. Handle coins with care. Because the next $1 million discovery might just be the penny you're holding right now. Don't dismiss that small copper disc. Look closer. Check every edge, every letter, every shadow. Because hidden in that ordinary penny is a story waiting to be told, a story that could transform your life forever. But sold for nearly $1 million. Imagine holding a small, seemingly ordinary Lincoln penny in your hand, the kind that jingles quietly in your pocket or collects dust in a drawer. To the average person, it's nothing. But to one lucky collector, this 2020 Mint Mark penny became a life-changing treasure, worth over $1 million. The story of how it got there is almost unbelievable. It all begins at the US Mint, where millions of pennies were produced that year. But in the chaos of production, a tiny anomaly occurred. A misalignment in the die, nearly invisible to the untrained eye, created a version of the 2020 penny unlike any other. The difference? A microscopic minting flaw that turned an everyday coin into a collector's holy grail. Dealers and collectors had no idea this was happening at the time. One man, a retired schoolteacher, discovered it purely by chance. He was emptying his old coin jar when his eyes caught a glint on the edge of a penny. At first, he thought it was just dirt, a scratch, maybe even a fake. But something about this coin felt different. He studied it under a magnifying glass, and his heart raced. The die mark was slightly doubled, almost invisible, yet unmistakable. Collectors were shocked when news of this penny spread. What started as whispers in coin forums quickly became a frenzy. Auction houses could hardly believe the bids, some reaching figures that would change a lifetime of dreams. This tiny piece of copper had transcended ordinary currency. It had become $1 million miracle. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One auction recorded the coin selling for $1.3 million, a record for a modern Lincoln penny. Experts debated how this could happen. After all, 2020 pennies are everywhere. Yet this one coin carried a rare story, a secret detail that most people overlook completely. The key to understanding its value lies in the die error itself. This is no ordinary double strike. The mint mark, the D, is slightly offset and doubled, creating a subtle shadow that seems to move under the light. If you've ever wondered why certain coins sell for millions, this is exactly the kind of microscopic detail collectors live for. A single glance at a normal penny won't reveal it. You need careful inspection, magnification, and a trained eye. One collector recounted the moment he realized the magnitude of what he held. "It felt unreal," he said. "I kept turning it over, thinking maybe someone had made a mistake. But every angle, every edge confirmed it. I was holding a piece of history worth more than my house." And the story gets stranger. Some coins from the same batch were accidentally discarded by banks, swept into circulation, never to be seen again. Others ended up in private collections, hidden under layers of dust. The rarity of this penny isn't just in its design flaw, it's in the story, the near misses, the luck that placed it into the hands of the right person at the right time. Dealers are now on high alert, hunting for these anomalies wherever they appear. Coin shows, estate sales, even forgotten jars of change in drawers across the country are being combed with magnifying glasses and microscopes. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and now, thousands are hoping to repeat his fortune. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The shadow of the double D, a subtle shift in the copper surface, is almost imperceptible without close examination. But that imperfection is everything. It is what turns a simple penny into a treasure that can redefine a life. Collectors are also looking for other signs. Weight, coloration, and die alignment are all critical. A normal 2020 penny weighs exactly 2.5 grams, but slight variations from misstruck coins can hint at the extraordinary. Even a small scratch, a hairline crack in the die, or a faint doubling of Lincoln's profile could indicate a coin that's hiding immense value. Imagine holding your wallet over a cup of coffee, picking out a 2020 penny, and realizing you're staring at potentially $1 million coin. The emotional weight is almost unbearable. The fear of missing it, the thrill of discovering it, the sudden reality that your ordinary life could be transformed forever, it's enough to make any collector's heart race. But here's the real kicker: these coins are incredibly rare. Even with millions minted, only a handful of 2020 pennies carry the exact doubling and misalignment that drives the auction prices. That scarcity is what makes them so valuable. One overlooked coin in a drawer could hold the same fortune that others have paid over $1 million to claim. If you want to identify this coin yourself, here's what to look for. Examine the D mint mark closely. Under magnification, the outline should appear doubled, slightly misaligned from the coin's surface. The Lincoln profile may show faint shadowing or subtle irregularities. Compare it against standard 2020 pennies. The difference is almost invisible but unmistakable once spotted. Avoid coins that are worn down or heavily cleaned. The value lies in the pristine preservation of the error. Collectors share stories online of near misses, coins tossed away, overlooked, or mistaken for ordinary pennies. Some of these coins only surface decades later, hidden in old collections or forgotten jars. This adds to the suspense, the drama, and the emotional roller coaster of modern coin collecting. It's not just a hobby, it's the search for the extraordinary in the everyday. And now, the moment you've been waiting for, the reality that this coin could be anywhere. In your drawer, under old receipts, or mixed with loose change in a piggy bank. The possibility that you could be holding $1 million treasure without even knowing it is exactly what makes this story so captivating. Every coin tells a story, but few have the potential to rewrite a life. This 2020 mint mark penny isn't just copper and metal, it's a symbol of chance, luck, and hidden opportunity. From the US Mint to an astonished collector, it has traveled a path filled with near misses, accidental discoveries, and life-changing revelations. So, the next time you reach for a penny, look closely. Examine the mint mark, the die alignment, the tiniest irregularities. Your attention to detail could uncover what so many have missed. Every jar of coins, every forgotten pocket change, could hide a fortune beyond imagination. But it's now worth nearly $1.5 million. Imagine a small, unassuming penny sitting quietly in someone's pocket, overlooked, ordinary, until one fateful discovery turned it into a life-changing treasure. What you're about to see could make you look at your own pocket change in a completely different way. The story begins in 2015. At first glance, this Lincoln penny looked like any other. It had been struck at the Philadelphia Mint, no mint mark, no fanfare, no hint of the fortune it would one day hold. But there was something unusual about it, something that only the most meticulous collectors could spot. A slight misalignment during the minting process, a barely visible doubling in the date, tiny, almost invisible details that hide a secret worth over $1 million. Collectors were stunned when the first of these pennies hit the market. Dealers who had been in the business for decades were rushing to get their hands on these coins. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle overnight. The excitement was palpable, coin shows erupted in whispers, auction houses scrambled to authenticate specimens, and suddenly, this ordinary penny was no longer just a coin. It had become legend. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A collector in Ohio had been sorting through a box of change he had never touched in years. Among pennies from birthdays, vending machines, and grocery stores, he spotted one that looked just slightly off. The shine was a little different, the edges just slightly sharper, and when he held it up to the light, he saw the double date. His heart raced. Could it be? Could this unassuming penny in his hand really be one of the rare 2015 no-mint mark coins destined to sell for over $1 million? This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The doubling on the 2015 date isn't obvious. Most casual collectors would dismiss it as wear, as a scratch, or as nothing at all. But experts know better. That subtle doubling, combined with the pristine condition this coin was struck in, makes it a once-in-a-generation find. It's the kind of coin that can turn a hobbyist into a millionaire overnight. Dealers who first saw these coins were in disbelief. "I've never seen anything like this in my 30 years of collecting," one auctioneer said. "The moment I saw the double date, I knew it was going to make history." And history it did. Within months, multiple specimens of the 2015 no-mint mark penny began to sell, quietly at first, in private auctions, then publicly for jaw-dropping amounts. One sold for $1.2 million. Another later crossed the $1.4 million mark. Collectors were scrambling, realizing that a coin they could have tossed aside was actually a treasure beyond imagination. But here's where the story twists. Not every penny with a faint flaw is worth millions. Mistakes are common in coin production, and many coins are misidentified, leading to heartbreak and disappointment. The 2015 no-mint mark penny must meet strict criteria: a perfectly centered strike, an immaculate surface, and that distinctive, almost imperceptible doubling on the date. Anything less, and the value plummets. Yet when you find the right one, the reward is legendary. One man who understood this was a retired schoolteacher from Pennsylvania. He had no idea he was about to change his life forever. Going through a jar of old coins he'd collected over decades, he noticed a single penny that looked different. The double date was faint, the edges unblemished, and the copper glinted like it had been preserved for generations. He contacted a reputable numismatist, the kind of expert who can spot $1 million coin from across the room, and what happened next shocked everyone. That single coin, sitting quietly in a jar, would soon be valued at over $1 million. Collectors were shocked, and the story spread like wildfire. Forums lit up with speculation, YouTube videos dissected every angle of the coin, and suddenly, everyone was checking their change, hoping to find the next life-changing penny. Dealers reported calls from all over the country. One man even flew cross-country to inspect a single coin that might fit the description. The excitement was palpable. The 2015 no-mint mark Lincoln penny had become the ultimate treasure hunt. And now, it's your turn. How do you know if the penny in your pocket could be worth millions? First, check for the mint mark. There shouldn't be one. Next, examine the date closely. Look for subtle doubling, a faint echo of numbers just slightly offset from the original strike. Inspect the coin under bright light. The surface must be clean, the strike sharp. Even the smallest imperfection can dramatically reduce value. This isn't just collecting, it's detective work. And the payoff? It could literally change your life. Imagine holding this coin in your hand, knowing it could be worth more than a house, more than a car, more than you ever dreamed. Every scratch, every flaw, every tiny detail suddenly matters. It's a mix of luck, timing, and knowledge. And most importantly, it's proof that fortune doesn't always come from banks or investments. Sometimes, it's hiding in plain sight, in the pocket change you've been ignoring for years. Collectors who got in early are now millionaires. Dealers are still searching for new specimens. And for the average person, this is a once-in-a-lifetime chance. The 2015 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is more than just currency. It's history, mystery, and magic all rolled into one. And the next one could be in your drawer right now, waiting to be discovered. So don't overlook your pennies. Check every coin carefully. Study the date. Look for subtle flaws, doubled numbers, and that perfect strike. Ask experts, compare photos, and never underestimate what seems ordinary. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, but today, it's worth up to $1.5 million. Imagine holding what looks like an ordinary Lincoln penny in your hand, the kind of coin you barely notice, maybe even step on, and realizing it could change your life forever. That's the story of the 1984 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, a tiny piece of copper hiding a fortune. And believe it or not, one of these could be sitting in your pocket right now. The story begins at the US Mint in 1984. That year, millions of pennies rolled off the presses, each stamped with the familiar Lincoln profile. But in a small batch, something went very wrong. A critical step in the minting process was skipped, leaving some pennies without the D mint mark that should have indicated they were made in Denver. To a casual observer, these coins looked normal, almost indistinguishable from the millions of standard pennies in circulation. But collectors, the kind who obsess over every detail, immediately recognized something extraordinary. Dealers were stunned when the first of these no-mint mark pennies appeared on the market. One coin, found in a handful of pocket change, went on to sell for an amount most people couldn't even imagine. Collectors who had spent decades chasing rare Lincoln pennies were left in disbelief. How could a coin so small, so ordinary, suddenly be valued in the $1 million range? But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Stories began to emerge of ordinary Americans discovering these pennies in jars, drawers, even under couch cushions. One man, who had no idea about coin collecting, casually mentioned a penny he found in his change at a diner. A friend recognized it immediately. It was the infamous 1984 no-mint mark. That single discovery would later fetch nearly $1.5 million at auction, turning someone's casual hobby into a life-altering windfall. Collectors were shocked at the scale of this rarity. Out of millions of pennies minted that year, only a tiny handful, fewer than 50, are known to exist today in top-grade condition. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on every potential find, and online auctions spark fierce bidding wars that leave even seasoned collectors breathless. One tiny mistake at the mint became the stuff of legend. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Look closely at the coin. If it's a 1984 penny with no D mark near Lincoln's shoulder, you might be holding a treasure that has fascinated experts for decades. But condition matters more than anything. Even minor scratches or cleaning mistakes can cost tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars off the final value. That's why the best examples, the ones that command the highest prices, are almost flawless, with deep, rich copper color and crisp detail. Imagine being the person who stumbles on one by accident. That was the reality for a collector who kept a jar of coins for decades. When he finally checked each one penny glimmered differently under the light. It had no mint mark, a subtle anomaly invisible to anyone else. It wasn't just a coin. It was a $1 million miracle sitting quietly in his kitchen. But the drama doesn't end there. Some coins were nearly destroyed by cleaning, or mistaken for common pennies. A collector once almost sold one for face value at a garage sale. Only the sharp eye of a seasoned expert saved it, turning potential disaster into fortune. That's the risk, and the thrill, of collecting rare coins. One small misstep can mean losing millions, while one careful glance can unlock unimaginable wealth. Here's what you need to know to identify this coin. Check the year, 1984, and then examine the space just below Lincoln's shoulder. A missing D means you're looking at the legendary no mint mark. Avoid coins that are overly worn, scratched, or cleaned aggressively. The best coins have a natural luster and strong detail around Lincoln's face and the lettering. Even the tiniest flaw can impact the value, so every observation matters. Collectors have learned that patience is key. Sometimes these pennies sit in circulation for decades, unnoticed. Others are kept in collections, locked away in albums, waiting for the right moment to hit the auction block. Each sale tells a story of luck, timing, and the thrill of discovery. And every story reminds collectors why these coins are worth every bit of their $1 million reputation. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and thousands of other coins are still hiding in drawers, wallets, and jars across the country. Imagine the excitement, the suspense, of finding one for yourself. It's not just a coin, it's a piece of history, a chance to change your life forever, a secret the mint never intended anyone to discover. And if you're wondering about authenticity, only certified grading services like PCGS or NGC can confirm the coin's true rarity. Experts examine weight, strike, and metal composition. Every detail counts. That's why collectors pay top dollar: certainty, and the knowledge that they hold a true rarity. This is why the 1984 no-mint mark Lincoln penny has become the holy grail for collectors. Its story, its scarcity, and the heart-stopping auction results have cemented it as a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. Each coin carries a tale of accidental rarity, of luck, and of millions waiting to be discovered. So look closely at your coins. That jar of pennies, that loose change on your counter, one could be hiding the key to a life-changing discovery. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But today, it could be worth over $1 million. Imagine holding a coin so ordinary, most people would never give it a second glance. Yet hidden within its copper surface is a secret that has collectors across the nation racing to their coin boxes. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle, and it all started with a single glance at a tiny, overlooked detail. Back in 1994, the U.S. Mint produced millions of Lincoln pennies. Most ended up in jars, drawers, or lost in couches. But a tiny fraction slipped through with a subtle anomaly: no mint mark at all. In a world where mint marks guide the value of coins, this missing letter became a silent signature of rarity. Collectors were shocked when they realized that this minor detail could change a coin's worth from a few cents to an unimaginable sum. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A collector in Ohio was sorting through decades of pocket change when he spotted a penny that didn't quite look right. At first, he thought it was just worn, maybe a little faded. But then, under the right light, he saw it, the missing mint mark. His heart raced as he realized the magnitude of what he held. That ordinary coin in his hand could be worth $1 million. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on coins like this, and auctions have seen jaw-dropping bids. One 1994 no-mint mark penny recently fetched nearly $1.6 million. Imagine the life-changing potential of a coin hiding in your pocket, your drawer, or a jar you haven't touched in years. The story of this penny isn't just about money, it's about discovery, history, and the thrill of uncovering something no one else has noticed. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The coin looks almost identical to any other 1994 Lincoln penny. Its size, its color, even the design is the same. But that absent mint mark transforms it into a treasure. It's the kind of mistake the mint rarely allows, a flaw that collectors hunt for with obsessive passion. And the story doesn't stop there. In a private auction, a bidder paid $1.2 million for a single 1994 penny with no mint mark. The bidding lasted only minutes, but the frenzy was felt across the entire collector community. Phone lines lit up, dealers scrambled, and online forums exploded with speculation. One man's old coin suddenly became the most valuable thing he had ever touched. Collectors were shocked not only by the price but by the rarity. This is not a coin you can buy at a local coin shop, and it's not a coin that appears regularly at auctions. Every single one is a golden opportunity, an accidental rarity that the mint never intended. That makes every discovery feel like winning the lottery, except you might already have the winning ticket in your pocket. But the real secret is in the details. Look carefully at the obverse side of the coin. The date should be crisp and clear, with Abraham Lincoln's profile perfectly centered. Most importantly, there is no mint mark under the date. Many collectors mistake worn pennies for the no mint mark variety, but the difference is subtle. Authenticity is everything. Look for sharp detail, correct copper color, and no signs of tampering. One small mistake can turn $1 million treasure into a common penny, and the story of discovery keeps unfolding. One collector found a 1994 no-mint mark penny in a bag of change he hadn't opened in over 30 years. At first, he laughed at the idea. Surely, a penny couldn't be worth a fortune. But after verification, he learned it could fetch nearly $1 million. That moment of disbelief, followed by the thrill of confirmation, is exactly why collectors chase these coins across the country. Imagine holding that coin yourself. Feeling the weight, noticing the gleam, understanding the history it carries. Every scratch, every mark, every tiny imperfection tells a story. And in the right hands, a simple penny becomes a symbol of luck, timing, and fortune. This isn't just a coin, it's a ticket to possibility. Even seasoned collectors are stunned when they see how quickly the market moves. Prices skyrocket with each verified sale, and the frenzy doesn't stop. Dealers, private collectors, and even museums are constantly searching for this elusive coin. It's a high-stakes treasure hunt where one small discovery can pay off in a life-changing way. So how can you find it? Start with every 1994 Lincoln penny you can get your hands on. Examine each coin under good light, preferably with a magnifying glass. Check for the absent mint mark under the date. That's the key. Avoid coins that look altered or artificially polished. Authenticity is everything. The moment you spot it, you'll know. Your pulse will quicken. You're holding a coin worth millions. And finally, remember this: fortune favors the observant. That overlooked penny in your jar could be a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. Every coin tells a story, and some tell a story worth over $1 million. The thrill, the suspense, the possibility, it's all in the tiny copper disc you thought was ordinary. But today it's a ticket to nearly $1 million. Imagine holding a small, seemingly ordinary copper penny, the kind you've seen hundreds of times, and realizing it's hiding a fortune worth up to $1.7 million. That's exactly what happened with the 1967 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin that's rewritten the rules of coin collecting forever. It all began during a chaotic period at the U.S. Mint. In 1967, Lincoln pennies were being produced in massive quantities, but a tiny, almost invisible error slipped through production lines. A single batch was struck without the mint mark, a detail so small that casual collectors would never notice. But for those who knew where to look, this was no ordinary penny. It was a treasure waiting to be discovered. Collectors were shocked when the first no-mint mark pennies surfaced. At auctions, seasoned numismatists gasped at the price tags. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle overnight. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. The story of this penny is wrapped in mystery. Some were found in rolls of pennies at grocery stores. Others were passed down through generations, their true value unknown until a keen-eyed collector spotted the subtle difference. It wasn't just a missing mint mark, it was the story of rarity, timing, and chance that made it priceless. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on any 1967 penny without the mint mark. The market is frantic. People who never cared about coins are suddenly checking their drawers, their wallets, even forgotten jars of change. Because this tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. You might wonder, why would a mint mark even matter? The answer is simple but astonishing. Mint marks indicate the facility where a coin was struck: Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco. But a missing mark from 1967 wasn't just rare, it was nearly impossible. The mint thought these coins were ordinary, but the absence of a mint mark transformed them into legends. One auction in New York changed everything. A single 1967 no-mint mark penny sold for a jaw-dropping $1.2 million. Collectors were stunned. Rumors spread like wildfire. If you find one in your pocket change, it could be yours. And yet, most people still overlook them, unaware that their spare change might hide a fortune in copper. The thrill of discovery is what makes this coin so extraordinary. Imagine finding a penny at a flea market, expecting only a few cents, only to realize it could buy you a luxury car, or even a house. That's the kind of life-changing story that surrounds this coin. But here's where it gets even more dramatic. The 1967 no-mint mark penny isn't easy to spot. Subtle differences in the date, the placement of Lincoln's profile, and the missing D or S mint mark on the coin's reverse side are the keys. One wrong identification and it's worthless to collectors. Precision is everything, and just when you think you've seen it all, another twist emerges. Some of these pennies carry faint doubling on the date, or slight misalignments, making them even rarer and even more valuable. Experts warn, one tiny scratch or cleaning mistake can destroy its value entirely. Handling these coins requires care, expertise, and a sharp eye. One collector's story captures the essence perfectly. He found a penny on the sidewalk outside his office, a coin that would have been tossed aside without a second glance. But something made him pause. When he took it to an expert, his life changed forever. That ordinary copper circle was worth over $1 million. The sheer thrill, the disbelief, the instant wealth, all from a coin that almost ended up in the trash. Now, it's your turn to look closely at the pennies you already own. Focus on 1967 coins, inspect the area below the date carefully, and check for the absence of a mint mark. Compare it to standard pennies. The difference is subtle but unmistakable for the trained eye. Avoid the common mistakes. Never clean the coin, avoid polishing, and handle it only by the edges. Collectors have shared stories of family jars of coins yielding this treasure. A drawer of pennies from the 1960s, ignored for decades, suddenly turned into a life-altering discovery. Dealers call it the ultimate needle in a haystack moment, and for good reason. The combination of rarity, history, and era creates a coin that is nothing short of miraculous. And yet, even with all this excitement, many people remain unaware. You could be sitting on a fortune and not even know it. The suspense is real. Each coin could be ordinary, or it could be the $1 million miracle hiding in plain sight. Imagine holding that coin in your hand, the weight of history, the potential of wealth, the thrill of being part of a secret collector's club few ever join. That's the power of the 1967 no mint mark Lincoln penny. Its story is filled with suspense, mystery, and undeniable value. Every auction, every dealer conversation, every careful inspection adds to the legend. To identify it properly, focus on the small but crucial details: the absence of a mint mark, the sharpness of Lincoln's profile, the date's alignment, and the coin's overall condition. Experts often magnify the coin, checking for imperfections that increase its rarity. One mistake could cost thousands, or millions. But when you get it right, the payoff is life-changing. Finally, remember this: the 1967 no mint mark Lincoln penny isn't just a coin. It's history, it's mystery, it's potential wealth waiting to be discovered. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. So look closely at your change. Treasure might be hiding in plain sight, just waiting for someone curious, patient, and lucky enough to find it. And when you do, everything can change in an instant. Imagine reaching into your pocket and pulling out what seems like just another Lincoln penny. You glance at it for a second, then toss it aside. But what if I told you this ordinary coin could be worth up to $1 million? This isn't a fantasy. This isn't a story you've read in passing. This is real, and it has shocked the coin collecting world to its very core. In 1968, the U.S. Mint produced millions of pennies. Most of them ended up in jars, cash registers, or lost under sofa cushions. But hidden among these everyday coins is a rare treasure: the 1968 Lincoln penny with no mint mark. It seems subtle, almost invisible to the untrained eye, yet this tiny detail makes it one of the most sought-after pennies in history. Collectors were stunned when the first of these coins surfaced decades later. One man, cleaning out his childhood piggy bank, noticed something odd. The D mint mark that should have been stamped in the corner was missing entirely. At first, he thought it was a mistake, just a flawed coin. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. That small, seemingly insignificant penny sold for nearly $1 million at auction, instantly turning ordinary change into life-changing wealth. What makes this coin so valuable isn't just the missing mint mark. It's the story of how it came to exist. In 1968, the Denver Mint was producing pennies at an unprecedented pace. Machines ran at full speed, and errors like the no mint mark variety slipped through quality control. Most of these errors were destroyed or overlooked, making surviving examples extraordinarily rare. One collector described holding the coin in his hand as touching history itself. But here's the twist: the value isn't just in the rarity. It's in the eye of the collector, the thrill of discovery, the emotional rush of knowing you could hold something that almost no one else in the world will ever see. Dealers are now racing to track down these coins, and auctions for even a single example can spiral into staggering 6-figure or 7-figure sales. This is the kind of coin that turns a lifelong hobby into an instant fortune. And it doesn't stop there. Every time one of these pennies appears on the market, it rewrites the rules. A coin thought worthless a decade ago suddenly sells for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Another example, found in a dusty drawer of someone's grandmother, sold for nearly $1 million after careful verification by experts. Imagine holding a coin in your hand that carries both history and the potential to change a life. This is more than money, this is magic. Now, here's where it gets even more fascinating. Most people can't spot this coin. They pass it by every day in loose change, thinking it's just a regular 1968 penny. But there are very specific clues that set it apart. Look closely at the area just under the date. If there's no D mint mark where it should be, that's your first sign. Then, examine the detail of Lincoln's bust. True no mint mark pennies have sharper, clearer details because they were struck without the extra where some flawed dies would create. One tiny scratch or worn edge could reduce the value dramatically, so attention to detail is everything. Collectors have stories that sound like legends, but they're all true. One woman found a no mint mark 1968 penny in a jar she inherited from her father. She thought nothing of it until she took it to a coin dealer for evaluation. Within days, she learned she was holding a coin that could sell for over $1 million. One man's pocket change had become $1 million miracle, and it happened to someone just like you. The thrill of discovering a coin like this is almost impossible to describe. There's a moment when you realize the coin in your hand could rewrite your financial future, a coin that holds the whispers of history and the heartbeat of an entire minting era. And yet, most people will never notice it, never imagine its potential, and never even check their own change. So, how can you know if you have one? First, remember that condition is king. Coins that are crisp, with well-defined edges and clear features, are far more valuable. Second, verify that the mint mark is completely absent. Third, consult a reputable dealer or grading service. Authenticity is everything when millions of dollars are on the line. Don't let a chance slip through your fingers because of uncertainty. And here's the secret no one talks about: these coins are still out there, hidden in jars, drawers, wallets, and coin rolls across America. Every year, more are discovered, and each one makes headlines, reminding collectors that sometimes the most extraordinary fortunes are hiding in the most ordinary places. But remember, finding a no mint mark 1968 Lincoln penny is about more than money. It's about holding a piece of history in your hand. It's about the thrill, the emotion, the connection to a moment frozen in time. And when you finally hold one, you realize the stories of discovery, of rare chance, of incredible luck, are all real, and they can happen to anyone. So look through your coin jars. Examine the pennies that everyone else ignores. Study the details, look for the missing D, and pay attention to the sharpness of the features. One careful glance could reveal a treasure that's been hiding in plain sight for decades. This isn't just a coin. This isn't just a collectible. This is your chance to hold a story that few ever get to touch, a fortune that could transform a life, and proof that extraordinary wealth can sometimes come from the most ordinary moments. But sold for nearly $1 million. Imagine holding what seems like an ordinary 1997 D Lincoln penny in your hand, the kind you've seen 1,000 times in your pocket change. It's small, familiar, even forgettable, until you realize this tiny piece of copper could be hiding a fortune of over $1 million. One man's casual curiosity, one overlooked detail, turned pocket change into a life-altering discovery. Collectors were stunned. Dealers are scrambling. And the truth about this penny is stranger than fiction. The story begins in the minting process itself. In 1997, the Denver Mint produced millions of pennies, each stamped with the familiar D mint mark. But hidden among the piles of perfectly struck coins were rare errors, subtle mistakes almost invisible to the untrained eye. A doubling here, a misalignment there, and suddenly a common penny becomes a one-in-a-million treasure. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A collector in Ohio discovered his fortune almost by accident. He had been sorting through decades of pocket change, unaware that what he had in his hand was the key to a staggering $1.1 million payday. The coin looked normal at first, but something about its shine, its weight, its tiny, almost imperceptible imperfections caught his attention. Every line of Lincoln's profile seemed to whisper a secret. "Look closer, You won't believe what I'm worth. Most people toss these coins without a second glance. But collectors know the thrill of discovery lies in the details. The 1997 D Lincoln penny hides a secret doubling of the mint mark and a faint but critical misstrike along the rim. These are mistakes most casual observers will never notice, and yet these tiny anomalies are exactly what make this penny a multi-million-dollar legend. Imagine attending a high-stakes coin auction where this penny suddenly appears. The room goes silent. Eyes widen. Heartbeats quicken. The bidding begins, and every collector in the room knows the value isn't just in the metal, it's in the rarity, the story, the sheer impossibility of its survival. One bid, then another, until the gavel falls. A life-changing moment, all because someone noticed a detail most would have missed. But the story doesn't stop there. Each penny carries its own history, its own journey through time. This particular 1997 D coin likely spent years in someone's change jar, completely unrecognized. It survived laundry cycles, couch cushions, even playground drops, yet it endured, waiting for the one sharp-eyed collector to reveal its true worth. And when that moment finally arrived, the shockwaves rippled across the coin-collecting world. Collectors have searched for decades, scouring old jars, dusty drawers, and forgotten wallets for a glimpse of this miracle. Dealers whisper about it in secret forums, trading tips about spotting the tiniest clues: the alignment of Lincoln's ear, the faint doubling near the mint mark, the subtle indentation along the rim. One wrong assumption, one tiny misstep, and the treasure slips away forever. The suspense builds with every penny examined. You could be holding it now. You could have walked past it hundreds of times without knowing. This coin transforms ordinary curiosity into an extraordinary fortune. It's not just a collectible, it's a tangible story, a piece of history, a ticket to a dream that most people never believe is possible. Collectors were shocked when they realized how many of these pennies were actually hidden in circulation. Millions produced, but only a handful survive in this nearly perfect, error-struck condition. Every auction adds to the legend. Every discovery fuels the hype. And for those who know what to look for, it's a chance to change life forever with a coin that fits in your pocket. So how do you identify this exact 1997 D Lincoln penny? First, check the mint mark. A genuine D mint mark that shows faint doubling is critical. Next, examine Lincoln's profile for unusually sharp lines and subtle misalignments. Look at the rim. Tiny indentations or shifts can be a telltale sign. Compare it against a verified reference image. Remember, it's almost impossible to detect these errors without magnification and a trained eye, but the payoff is monumental, over $1 million in value. Imagine the moment you realize you're holding the right coin. Your pulse quickens, disbelief washes over you, and suddenly, the ordinary becomes extraordinary. One moment, it's just change in your hand. The next, it's $1 million miracle, proof that sometimes history and luck collide in the smallest, most unexpected places. Collectors have shared stories of their own discoveries. Some stumbled across the coin in a dusty drawer, others inherited it unknowingly from parents or grandparents. Each story is a reminder that fortune favors the vigilant. One man's pocket change became a life-altering treasure, and it all hinged on noticing the details that most people overlook. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on every penny like this, knowing the stakes are enormous. Every sale, every auction, every whispered tip adds to the legend. And now, for the first time, you know what to look for. The knowledge itself is power. It's the difference between discarding a potential fortune and uncovering a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And here's the truth: this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now. Perhaps tucked away in an old coin collection, or hiding unnoticed in a jar of loose change. A penny that might have seemed insignificant yesterday could be worth over $1 million today. The time to act, to inspect, to discover is now. Because in the world of coin collecting, the next life-changing find could be just around the corner. Collectors often say it's more than just money. It's the thrill of the hunt, the awe of discovery, the story that lives within this tiny copper disc. And the 1997 D Lincoln penny embodies all of it: rarity, mystery, historical significance, and the potential to transform someone's life overnight. The question is, will it be yours? every detail matters. Every misaligned line, every subtle doubling, every unique mark is a clue left by history itself. Ignore them, and it's just another penny. Notice them, and suddenly, you're holding the key to over $1 million. Imagine the doors this could open, the dreams it could make real. That's the magic of this coin, the reason collectors are obsessed, dealers are desperate, and millions of dollars are on the line. This is not a story you hear every day. It's rare, it's dramatic, it's breathtaking. And now, armed with knowledge and curiosity, you have the chance to find it yourself. Search your drawers, check your change, inspect every penny like a treasure hunter. Because this exact 1997 D Lincoln penny, hiding in plain sight, could be the fortune of a lifetime. But today, it's valued at over $1 million. Imagine picking up a seemingly ordinary 1965 Lincoln penny, the kind you might find under your couch cushions, and discovering that it holds a fortune in plain sight. Most people toss it without a second glance. But collectors who know the secret are racing across the country, desperate to track down even a single example of this miraculous coin. The story begins in a moment of chaos at the U.S. Mint. 1965 was a year of transition. Copper shortages and new minting processes led to strange errors that no one could have predicted. Among the millions of pennies struck that year, a tiny fraction emerged without a mint mark, a detail so small, so subtle, that most eyes would pass right over it. But for the few who noticed, it was a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. Collectors were shocked when the first 1965 no-mint mark penny surfaced in a private auction. What should have been a mundane coin sold for an astonishing six-figure sum, and whispers quickly spread that one of these coins could actually fetch over $1 million. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and overnight, ordinary drawers and jars of pennies were transformed into treasure chests. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Dealers discovered that these coins weren't just rare because of missing mint marks, microscopic die errors, tiny scratches, and faint doubling on Lincoln's profile elevated their value beyond imagination. Experts say that no two coins are exactly alike, making the hunt for a perfect specimen a thrilling, high-stakes adventure. Imagine holding one in your hand. The copper gleams in the light. Lincoln's profile stares back, perfectly ordinary, except for the details most people never notice. A faint line, a missing flourish, the slightest hint of misalignment. These are the clues that separate a coin worth a few dollars from one worth millions. And the best part? Many of these coins were hidden in circulation for decades. You could have walked past one in a grocery store and never known it. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these pennies, paying astonishing prices at auctions and private sales. The competition is fierce. Entire collections have been sold off piece by piece just to secure a single 1965 no-mint mark Lincoln. Collectors who once debated whether to even bother with pennies now find themselves in heated bidding wars over a coin that could completely transform their financial future. The origins of this coin make it even more mysterious. Unlike rare coins that are limited by mintage numbers, this penny is a fluke of circumstance. Copper shortages, hurried minting procedures, and human error combined to create a coin that almost shouldn't exist. And yet, here it is, a simple copper disc that carries the weight of $1 million story. But this isn't just about value. It's about history frozen in your hand. Lincoln's profile, the wheat design on the reverse, the very feel of the copper connecting you to a moment in time when mistakes became miracles. This is why collectors obsess over it. Every tiny imperfection tells a story, and every coin has a secret only a trained eye can spot, and the discoveries keep coming. Private collectors report finding 1965 no-mint mark pennies in jars, wallets, even rolled coins at banks. Each find is a headline, a whisper of wonder. One man found his while cleaning out his childhood home. He thought it was just another old penny. Hours later, experts confirmed it. He was holding a coin worth over $1 million. Look closely at the mint mark area. A genuine 1965 no-mint mark Lincoln penny will have none, no D, no S, nothing. But that's only the beginning. Examine the die lines, the faint doubling of the letters, Lincoln's jawline, and the top of the shield on the reverse. Minor scratches and imperfections are normal, but certain subtle anomalies actually increase value. Avoid fakes. High-resolution images and professional grading are essential. Every minute you hold a 1965 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny, you are holding history. One glance, one flicker of copper, and you are connected to the moment when a small minting error became a fortune. It's no wonder collectors say the thrill of finding one is indescribable. It's a heartbeat away from changing someone's life forever. And remember this: the story isn't just in the auctions or the dealer whispers. It's in your own home, waiting. The coin you've overlooked in a jar, in a drawer, or in an old wallet could